Good evening, everybody. We'll get going very shortly. If you're on YouTube and you're watching our YouTube stream tonight, you're more than welcome to join us. I put the link in the chat there on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, I can't actually see the chat, so I can't answer any of your questions. But if you're on YouTube, you're more than welcome to join us in the live webinar room. Just use the link that I put in the chat. To everybody else, we're going to get going very shortly. Just going to give it another minute for a few more people to come in before we get going. Okay, everybody, welcome to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Thanks very much for attending. Before we move along, if you can just read through this disclaimer. So we'll be showing you some trading levels that I'm watching. I might be showing you some trade setups that could potentially occur, but they're for education purposes only. I'm not considering your own financial circumstances, so you need to make your own personal trading decisions yourself. So quickly just read through the risk disclaimer and then we'll move along. All right, so if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. And I'm a full-time Forex trader. I've been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years. I'm mentoring clients for more than 10 years. If you need to contact me regarding the webinars, you can get me at duncan.cooper@acy.com. And you can follow me on the acy.com website at the Market News tab, on YouTube at the ACY Securities Australia channel. You'll find my analysis and education videos there. And personally, you can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn there. So just to give you a heads up, we've been going through the beginning of a webinar series. We've covered these topics. Just really wanted to show you what's coming up this week. Last night, I went through trade setups, trend line break. Tonight, we're going to go through a live market analysis. Tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Sydney time, I'm going to be going through bringing it all together, support and resistance zoning. So I'll actually probably do a bit of that tonight. But tomorrow evening, I'll be showing you and explaining exactly how I do it. Whereas tonight, I'll just be doing it. And hopefully you can follow along. All right, let's get into it. Now, if you're new to the webinars or if you're on the YouTube live stream, you can see that my charts have got certain indicators. Here we go. Pivot points on the chart, market date at the bottom, market session opening times, so on and so forth. If you want to get access to my indicators and chart layouts, then I'll give you a link so that you can do that. I'm just pasting that into the chat. So the link at the top, you can click on that and download a file. I'll just show you what it looks like. It looks like this MT4 webinar configuration WinRAR file. So you need WinRAR software or unzip software. Double click on it. It will open up. Inside there are some folders that need to be moved to the MT4 platform folder. Just watch the video. It takes 2 minutes to watch and do. And then have it set up. So it doesn't delete anything out of your own personal trading platform. It will add in the templates menu here, these 4 templates. Along the menu or toolbar here, it will add in some extra buttons that I use. Down at the bottom in the profile section, there's 12 pairs that I'm using tonight. There's 4 profiles here that are mine that I will use during the webinars from time to time. Currently using 12 pairs tonight. So it will add in, it doesn't delete anything that you've already got, okay? So you won't lose anything unless you don't follow my instructions there and you destroy things, but you shouldn't destroy things, just follow my instructions all you're doing is copying some extra things in. We're not taking anything out. All right. So I'll give you the link. You can just download that as I'm talking. All right, so I'm just going to click through. I just want to see what's going on. And I know what's going on, but I just want to see where price is relative to what has been going on. So there might be one pair that I want to talk about right now rather than come back in 20 minutes. All right, I want to talk about the Aussie N first of all. And let me just take that off. So we've had this failure up here at monthly resistance 85.80, and we could be getting a double top long-term breakdown the range over time. I've already discussed this, but to just quickly go through it. If we can break this support low here, my long-term target is down here at 69.90. So it's the high of the double top pattern projected below. Now, that's got nothing to do with tonight because that's miles away, but that's where I'm anticipating price might move to if we continue down. At the moment, what we can see is that last week we've had 5 negative weeks, 7 in total once we rejected the resistance up here, moving down. And we're definitely trading up this week inside the week of last week. So we're bouncing on weekly support here at the moment. Mark these down. So we did, I think, trade just beneath there. So that hypothetically turns the weekly trend to down, breaking that support low, even though we're bouncing on it. To the daily, still lower tops and bottoms. We're just rallying back up here at the moment within this last move down from that lower top. So we did break weekly support just. We're having a bounce. MACD is still down. I'm drawing a fib from that high down to low. That's last week's range. So that's across last week's candle. Often we'll pull back 62% or 79% of the week's candle, hold, and then turn around and move back down for the week. So is that what is going to occur this week? Time will tell. So on the 4-hour chart, we've been testing the 79% level here, and currently we're testing the 8100 figure level. Is that where the market is going to hold? Maybe put in the weekly top for this week's candle and then move further down. Okay, that's what I would be considering at the moment. Now, yes, we could move further up. So depending on what price wants to do at the figure, is it going to continue up or not? If we continue up, the next level I'll be watching is last week's high up here at 81.47. And there was a marginally lower top to the left there. So there's two 4-hour tops here, but the one at the top there at 81.47 is last week's high. So that would be a good level to trade down from if we tried to trade above that and rejected. So I'm going to move it down to the 15-minute chart. And we've spent some time at 79% level. We've come above the figure. We've moved down. There was a short-term trade entry earlier in the day. Very limited risk. Traded down. At worst, you should have got the risk out of that trade because at the moment it's popping back up. And it's just retesting the high of the day. Is it going to have any legs to move back above 81? Don't forget the day chart trend is down. So my bias, me personally, is to trade down on a good setup. So at the moment, we are having another test up here, but I'd just be watching 81 and the 79% area at the moment. Does price through the trading day start to fall back below this area? Does it show you a trend line break to get in? Maybe to trade back down the downside. All right, so it is showing a little bit of buoyancy at the moment at the figure, but it's a level I'm definitely watching up there. So 81, if we move higher from that level, back to the 4-hour, I'm watching last week's high up here, 81.47. All right, we can come back and have a look at that a little bit later. And let's talk about the Aussie. In fact, I'll come back to the Aussie dollar in a moment because I want to go back. I want to go to the dollar yen because that's at a very critical level. So I just want to go through the monthly chart look where we've moved up to monthly resistance here at 114.72 and rejected. So are we long term? So there's a few setups at the moment that could be in reversal areas where price might move down long term. Are we going to move back down? I'm just putting this in roughly, but are we going to move back down long term to long term support through this area? That's miles away. It doesn't come into this week's trading viewpoint, other than you could be taking a trade up here for the idea that we might move down long term down to, you know, the 190, the 101 level approximate area. All right, long term. If we do move down to that level, right now in this area, this is the area you want to look to take that positional trade. There's no point complaining to me in a month's time that we've moved down 300 pips and are we going down here, and when you should be getting in maybe in this region for a reversal. So weekly trends, MACD is almost crossing down now. We had a big rejection. We had a week down last week. We broke the lower last week. We're having a minor bounce there. And this week, we're trading back up inside the week of the week before, like on the Aussie yen. Very similar. Day chart there is just coming up to test daily resistance here at 113.58. Traded into it yesterday, above it slightly, but we had a little bit of a rejection candle there. And notably last week, see those rejections on these candles in that area above that level of 113.58. So we've been coming in, moving back out. We're at the level right now. I'm noticing as well this final top up here put in negative divergence on the indicator as well. So all signs of a reversal from the monthly level, just having some form of short-term correction within last week's range. For our charts, I just want to put in this area here, 113.748. That's a daily level of resistance as well. And what you'll see is, and also I'm going to put in the fib from that high down to that low, that's last week's candle range. And we come back up and we've been coming into this resistance area here, 113.58 up to 113.74. Traded in yesterday, 79% level falls in between, and we fell back below through Asia. And we're coming up in London to retest that level, but that could be an excellent level for you to be taking a trade for the long term. Whether you go, okay, I'm just clicking in, putting my stop above last week's high, or you want a much more short-term entry, depending on what your trading strategy is. But quite clearly, this is starting maybe to prove that resistance is forming here between 113.58, 113.74. If the 4-hour MACD crosses down over the next two candles or so, that's going to further maybe start to confirm that we're getting a reversal down from the high 4-hour highs that we formed last week. All right, so the 1-hour chart, sorry, beg your pardon, to the 15-minute chart with my pivots. You can see we come up to hold at the moment 13.58, and we're holding at the pivot. All right. Now, I showed a similar trade to this last week, I think, on the dollar yen. This is just to show you an idea. I'm not saying this is a suggestion that you should all go away now and take this exact trade. I just want to show you what you could be doing here at resistance. We're at the pivots. We're at resistance. If you wanted to, practice how you could form a low pip risk trade for the long-term move down, you could just simply be clicking in now, selling at resistance. So I'm going to do that. And you could just be putting your stop above the area that's holding as resistance at the moment. So I'm just going to move it up. Just going to get it above both areas of resistance there. So I'm risking on that setup, trading against resistance there, risking 20 pips. All right. So the resistance will hold for me and we'll move down. Or, I'm going to lose 20 pips. I don't mind losing 20 pips when, if I'm looking at my high time frame chart, the monthly chart here, if that holds and we trade down the long term, there is at least 1,200 pips. So I'm risking 20, trying to take a positional trade for the long-term move. So I'm just showing you how you could conjure that up. You need to work out yourself. If you think that's a good trade, I'm not recommending it. I'm just showing as an educational point of view how you could construct a trade at resistance. All right. So that is a hypothetical trade. What I could probably see if I draw a fib from that high up there down to the low, we probably rallied into the 62 area as well. So what we might be having here from the fall down, a move down, a rally against that move down to the 62. And then we might be having a continuation pattern. It would be a 4-hour reversal continuation pattern down to the downside. All right. Potentially that might be what's going to be unfolding over the next few hours. So you can watch and see how that works. But that should be a good learning analysis there for you. So let's go back to the Aussie dollar. And we've been in this long-term trend on the way down. I'm actually going to go to the monthly chart here. We're showing lower tops and bottoms on the monthly. We've actually broken this monthly level. We're actually back above it. And we came down to this area of monthly support at 69.91 late last week. So having a bit of a bounce. Are we putting in a short-term bottom there just for a bounce, or what's the story? And I've been commentating on this on the charts at the moment, on the monthly charts, where we're getting MACD crosses down, price trends turning down, MACD's crossing down. When you get across, here we got a cross back in time, get across on the MACD on the monthly, you often get a sustained trend. So I'm expecting we're going to get a sustained trend, and yes, 69.91 is going to break over time. So I'm just going to put in this level here as well, fractionally above 71.06. And there's that area of broken support at 71.70. We're a bit shorter there. Maybe price is heading back up to 71.70. If it does, that's the level I'd certainly be watching for a failure for trading down. So even though we're moving up, so wanted to go to the day to click on those lines, back to the weekly. Very much like the Aussie yen and the dollar yen I just commentated on. We're trading back up inside the range of last week's candle. We're not having a week up yet. Even if we have a week up, it doesn't change the trend. This is a lower bottom to the last bottom. We could just need a week up. So, we're just trading back inside last week's range for the moment, waiting to sell back down during the next 2.5 days. Day trend, this is still in a downtrend, bouncing on support. Lower top, lower bottom, lower bottom. MACD might be crossing up, but it's just reacting to price action. Going to draw a fib from the last high to the low. That's last week's candle range. So on the 4-hour there, you can see that we've been rallying back up, and we're just coming back up into the 79% retracement. Maybe that's the move down. This is a rally. And then we're going to get continuation move downwards to retest support. All right. So at the 79 area, what the 71.34 area at the moment, we have seen a little bit of negativity there, intraday trading. Price might further go up. It could come up to 71.70. That's that weekly. Beg your pardon, just want to refresh my memory. Yep. That's the weekly level of broken support. We can see once we broke below it here, became resistance. So I'd expect that area to be resistance once more. So weekly high, 71.72. Weekly broken support at 71.70. That would be very strong resistance if we got up there. Would be a good level to watch for failure. All right, in terms of 15-minute chart action, there has been a failure up there at the 79% level. Well, whether you use that trend line or whether you use this very minor little one there, there has been a move down. There was a few pips. It's come back up to retest the 79. And, the candles are getting negative there at the moment. So you could be watching, obviously, for a failure there through the rest of the day. Do we get another trend line break? Can you initiate a trade on the break of that trend line to the downside? I just want to pop back to the Aussie. So Aussie dollar's starting to shift down a little bit. The Aussie yen there is just starting to fail the figure. Just going to draw in a rough trend line there. You know, maybe getting the start of a break of a trend line there. Is that a trigger for a trade to the downside? All right, so Aussie yen and Aussie dollar, they're at good levels. Are they going to reverse down? You can monitor those and make your own decision. Going to go to the euro yen. I just want to talk about this. I did a video review of this pair this week. You can find it on our YouTube channel. What I was saying is on the monthly chart, this monthly top here, 133.12. We've held there twice now. Putting in the lower top, we broke below this lower bottom here, changed the monthly trend to down. So we actually got a triple top up there. So I'm eyeing as a move down from that area down to this long-term level at 121.61 for a long-term move. Won't get there this week, won't get there this month probably. Might take 3 or 4 months to get down there, but MACD is crossing down. Like we're saying on the Aussie, once you get a MACD cross on the monthly, you often get a long-term trend in that same direction. So that's why I'm looking at a long-term target down at 121.61. So monthly trend is down, weekly trend is down. We're just toying with this level here at 127.92. It's been below it today, a little bit back above it. We closed below it yesterday. So I'm just waiting for it, hopefully, to break down below that level. So our long-term target is this area down here, 121.616. I'm actually getting that level because this is really a double top here, very close to these tops. So the height of the pattern projected below comes in at that area, 121.73, that's 121.61. So I'm just using monthly support as a target. To the daily, trend is down. MACD might be wanting to cross up here, I don't know. Yesterday we had a negative candle closing below weekly support / resistance here. So it's making its mind up. Can it move through or does it need some form of a bounce? Trend won't change in the daily unless we break above that top. That may only mean we have a week up, and that could be short-lived. So at the moment though, trend is down. So I'm just going to go back to the daily, and that is the last week's range. Just want to double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it is. That's last week's range. And we've moved back up within that last week's candle to the 79, like I showed you on the Aussie yen too. All right. So lots of similar price action happening. We're tracing back up inside last week's candles. For our chart, it's a little bit consolidatory here. It has put in a higher bottom up to the 79 region of last week's candle. Close below, as I said, on the daily candle, below that level, we're having a bounce back up. Now, is this a higher bottom to move higher up? That's a question mark. Or has this come up to put in the high for the week, then it's dropped, now it's rallying, and is it going to drop? So if you just want to trade with a trend, then you'll be going for the scenario of that's the drop from the high of the week, rally to drop down further. If you think support's coming in, then you should be trading to the upside. My bias is to the downside because the monthly and the weekly trends are quite clearly down, but I might be proven wrong in the short term. So what I'm seeing is that's the drop down from yesterday. Just going to go back to the daily one more time. See that very negative candle closing below support. So we might be just rolling up inside the candle before we then have a negative day down. We'll see what happens. And the reason why I say that is because I draw a fib from the high of last week's yesterday's candle to the low. We've just been a little bit short of the 79% area. That 62 is off the weekly range. So, you know, put in a high here, another high here at the pivot. We came down. We rallied and held at the same high. Is this now holding to move down? It's looking a little bit weak on the 15-minute candles here. So at the moment, it's just a little bit short of the 62. I'm kind of favoring at the moment, this has moved down. That's yesterday's move down. This is corrective for then a 4-hour continuation reversal pattern down this way. All right. So you can just monitor to see if you get a trend line break to the downside within that pullback. And then if you do, you need to make a decision yourself as to where you think that's a viable trade. And that's the direction to trade in. Already though, earlier in the day, we did see a nice little trend line break. You can certainly have gotten the risk out and you could have certainly taken some profit. Then it's headed back up to the same area. And, you know, if you did take profit, come back to the same area, you could just be clicking in, putting your stop back above the high. And then you've actually funded the second trade down through here by taking some profit. And then you could be taking a trade down and you get a free look. All right. All right. What I can see, if you like to trade fib retracements, there's a minor fib retracement here. And we're flying at the minus 79% level. So traders often like to wait for the rally, sell at the 79% level, stop above the high. Limited risk on the expectation. This is now going to put a minor leg down within the bigger leg down. Okay. All right. So potentially showing a little bit of weakness there. Is it getting ready for its next intraday move down from that area? Moving along. Euro dollar is not really exciting me too much at the moment, but what I will say about the euro dollar, we have seen a very good trend down. I've got a weekly level of resistance drawn in. Just ignore that line to delete it off for a moment. The weekly trend is clearly down, and last week we had a week up. So we've actually had 2 positive weeks, but 1 week up. And I said last week, I'd like to see this get up to that level of resistance, 114.22. Or at least to the 114 level, and then look to see what price does. Does it get weak? Want to turn back down in line with the long-term trend? Day chart at the moment, we've had lots of small candles in here. That's why I'm not getting too excited about this pair at the moment, because it's just trading within the range of that resistance and support there. I'd much prefer to see it get up to 114.22 and then hold and reject. That being said, move to the 4-hour chart. This top here, I'm just going to draw it in with a line. 4-hour chart trend is down. Maybe we've already had the 1 week up, and that's enough for the pair. Just putting the wrong number in. It's 112.98. So just putting a line in here, it's at 112.98, so it's almost the figure level, 113 level. So what I've been noticing over the last couple of days, so the 4-hour trend is down here. It's getting very close to making a double top here. But to the 15-minute chart, what I'm noticing is Monday, if I can just scroll back in time a bit, Monday, the figure 11300 level became resistance. Yesterday, we got 2 pips short of the figure. And today, we're a little bit short of yesterday's high. So at the moment, quite clear the sellers are at 11300. So I'm just pausing because I'm just reading a question coming. I'll get to your question in a moment, for me. So what I'm seeing here over the last 2 trading days, the sellers are quite clearly positioning themselves at the 11300 level. So maybe that's where the sellers are. So if price gets up to the 11300 level today and it holds and gives you a tight entry with a trend line break, that's a good level to trade down from, because it's proved to you over the last 2 days it's strong resistance. I would much prefer it to have a bit of a deeper rally, say up to the 114 level. Then that means that the oversold position of the weekly chart will just be, lessening. But that being said, the market may only want to do what it's done in terms of its rally, which was 1 week up, and the sellers are taking control at 113 level. So watch 113, see if it does reject at that level. Now, so leave for me, your question is, what is the place of the megatrend analysis of the day chart in all of these analyses? All right, so I'm analyzing the charts today in terms of pure trend and pure support and resistance of how I'm looking at the market. With the megatrends, that's a tool that I give to clients so that if they struggle with determining trends by looking at pure price action and support and resistance, they can just use the megatrend to find out what the trend is. So if a pair's in a megatrend up, just trade in line with that. The trend, if a pair's in the megatrend to the downside, just trade in line with that. But that's for somebody that is in, they struggle determining the trend. So that's what I would say about the megatrend. We went through it last night and I showed you what pairs were in a megatrend or not. So I know, for example, in all probability, the Aussie dollar, for example, was in a megatrend yesterday, but in all probability is not in a megatrend today. That doesn't mean to say that my bias has changed. It is still to the downside, because in terms of pure price action, the trend on the daily chart is down. All right, but it might not be in what I call a megatrend. So I just use the megatrend as a tool to define as a pair in a strong uptrend or downtrend for those clients or traders that struggle with trends. So just, if you do struggle with trend, you can just use that as a clear, clinical way of determining the trend. All right. All right, moving on. I'm going to go to the pound yen. I'm just highlighting here where an entry was holding at the pivot point for a move down earlier in the day. Obviously, it showed some profit, traded down around about 40 pips to the figure. It's had a bounce up. So in all probability there, you only needed to risk about no more than probably 16 pips, and it moved down 40 pips. So I don't know whether anybody caught that trade setup, but I went through that trade setup yesterday in yesterday's webinar, and that's a nice example of an entry trading down from the pivot. All right, I want to go to the weekly chart, and I've got my levels of support and resistance drawn in. Now, the weekly trend, I'd like to say it's down. Well, we have a higher top, and I'm not sure whether we've broken the bottom here, but we're certainly sitting on these bottoms through here. So are we moving downwards? I need to go to the monthly chart just to give you a fuller picture of what I think is happening. We're actually failing at this area of resistance here on the monthly. 156.598 is that level. So if you struggle to determine what the trend is on the weekly, well, what is the monthly chart telling you, first of all? To me, it's telling me that we're holding at monthly resistance. Had a very negative month last month. And I'm anticipating we might, like I was showing you on the dollar yen, maybe we're failing up here at monthly resistance to trade all the way down to monthly support, long-term monthly support down at the bottom of the range. MACD hasn't crossed quite down yet, but it's giving you the idea that it might want to, especially if you have a negative month this month, that will cross down. So if you're struggling with determining what the weekly chart is telling you, what's the monthly chart telling you? For me, it's telling me we're reversing at major resistance. We might be getting a significant change in trend for a longer term move down. The weekly, so we rejected monthly resistance. We've come down to weekly support through here. I put this line in here because if we do hold here and move up strongly, that's where your next resistance level would be at that old top here at 152.84. Now, what I can see, which would change, probably in all probability, change my mind to being positive on this pair, is I can see that we've got to a higher top here, to the last top, but the indicator is showing you negative divergence. That's often a precursor to a major change in trend. and that's happening at monthly resistance. So my bias isn't to be a buyer, even though we're bouncing on that weekly support. It's to be a seller when price has finished its bounce. Daily chart, this isn't a clear downtrend. Yes, we've had a bounce. We had a negative candle yesterday. Like I showed you on the Euro Yen, Pound Yen has a negative candle. Just want to find out, just going back to the weekly a moment. All right, just wanted to find out where last week's high is. It's just there. So what I like to do is draw a fib across last week's range. So that's what I'm going to do, because often price is just trading back inside last week's candle. So that's a fib drawn across last week's candle. I'm going to move to the 4-hour chart. And what I want to know then is within that candle. So there's the, just going to draw it in as a candle so you get the picture. That's last week's candle moving down to support. So any price action that we've been having from the low here is this week's. And you can see we've retraced back inside 62 to 79%. All right. This area of resistance on the 4-hour chart, we couldn't hold above and we've fallen below. And yesterday we had a negative daily chart candle up close to the 79% area of the pullback within last week's range. So I'm just going to drop it to a 15-minute chart. So yesterday's trading range, well, we had a negative candle. That's the high to the low. So we drew all the way down through yesterday's trading range to the low. And then what I like to do is, if we have a negative candle, I like to see where it retraces back up inside that candle. It's been very weak. It's only retraced back up to 38. It's only retraced back up to the central pivot. And as I said in the pivot point lesson, if we're holding at the central pivot and not getting above it, that's weak. In this case, it's weak to the downside. So we actually put in a minor double top intraday at the central pivot point. So we were a negative rejection candle yesterday at the 79% level of the weekly range, or close to. We've double topped intraday at the pivot point, and we've been breaking down the range. All right, so I'm anticipating that, yes, we've had another pullback. I'll draw a minor fib in here. You're going to see that that's a 79% pullback, very much like I was showing you on the Euro Yen. Could have been a seller up there at little 79% pullback, stop above the high, and then seeing whether it wants to move down the range for the day. But obviously at the moment, what we're seeing is the central pivot is clear resistance, might pop back up to the central pivot point today. If it holds again and gives you a nice tight trend line break like here, that would be perfect. So my bias is still to the downside with what I was showing on the monthly chart, that negative weekly divergence as well. All things are showing there, pointing towards the fact that price might want to be changing its trend longer term to the downside. All right. In any event, the day chart trend, let's go back to the daily here, broke through this bottom to a lower bottom. The trend is down on the daily, so that's my bias. So my day chart trend bias is down. Then we failed at the central pivot point, trend line break to the downside. I showed you that trade setup yesterday. It's a perfect example. Okay. All right, moving to the pound dollar. Don't really like too much what I'm seeing on the pound dollar at the moment in terms of this 50-minute price action. Not seeing anything as a trade entry that I might want to get involved with. But let's just go through the trend. Quite clear on the weekly here, lower tops and bottoms. We've been having a long-term leg down here on the weekly. I don't know if we're, long-term overrun there on the weekly. We haven't had a week up for quite a while. So maybe we do need a week up. So what I would be watching if we do start to have a strong rally, 134.11, that area there. I'd be watching 134.11 as resistance, where I might want to start to look to take a positional trade for the next leg down. So, if we can have a week up, we hold and fail there, then I'd expect the next few weeks down. So maybe we're due a 1 or 2 weeks up before we get the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks down, like it's been doing here. All right. So I'll just be watching 134.11 if we do have a strong rally. 2-day chart, it is holding down. We tried to have a cross here, the MACD, and then it couldn't do it. Maybe it is crossing up. So I'm not that interested at such low levels to be trading with the trend to down. I don't like to go counter trend really at all. So I'd like to see this just pop back up to a high level of good, strong resistance. And then when it starts to fail and hold, then I can reassess things. So at the moment, I'm just watching to see where that can rally to and give me a better area to trade down from. I mean, this top here, this 4-hour top at 133.70, that could hold. There's another area there at 133.95. That's a little bit short of the 134.11. So I much prefer 134 to 134.11 as an area to see price have a bit of a rally back up to before getting set maybe for the next decline. All right. So just looking at that as a longer term level to watch at the moment. New Zealand yen. Now this is New Zealand. I'm going to go through the New Zealand yen and the New Zealand dollar if I can get my words out. They're very similar to the Aussie crosses. So as I mentioned yesterday, I wouldn't trade all these 4 pairs. They're highly correlated together. But if you're seeing failure on one, it's nice that you can see failure on the other 3, because that's just confirming that they're getting a shift of the correlation in the same direction. All right, so let's have a look at this on the weekly chart. We've been coming down and breaking this low area, so it's changing the trend to down. I'm actually going to go to the monthly chart just to show you where this has been failing. So let me get rid of that line just to put a fuller picture. Very negative candle action last month. We've got railroad tracks, and that's occurring at all these monthly tops here. Obviously, it broke above this one and almost touched this one, a bit short of these 2, but it's come into an area of monthly resistance, right? So the fact we broke this one and faltered, that's the level it's failed at 81.61. 81.61 too, so it's failing at monthly resistance. If this MACD crosses down, that's probably going to tell you that longer term, we're going to get a longer term move down for quite a few months. So big reversal candlestick pattern. Monthly trend really hasn't changed yet in terms of price action. Higher bottom, higher top, but a clear failure at resistance. Weekly though, see the negative divergence. Lower top on the indicator, higher top on the price. So I'm expecting a reversal for the longer term. We've broken below the last high bottom on the weekly, turning the trend down. Just going to put that level in. 76.329. And if it breaks through that level, the next level you really need to be aware of is the next major level of support here at 74.558. I hate when I do that. Move it. 558. All right, move to the daily, and very similar to Aussie yen, lower tops and bottoms. Very similar to the pound yen, lower tops and bottoms. Of course, this level here, this weekly level, very much like the Aussie yen that's bouncing on weekly support. We're bouncing on weekly support. MACD's down, price trends down. I'm going to do the exact same thing I've been doing. That's last week's high, putting a fib across it. So price is retracing back inside last week's trading range. On the 4-hour chart, what you will see is we've got up to the 62% retracement of last week's candle. And there are three 4-hour tops here. The first one's at 77.118. So what we've been seeing is prices traded up to 4-hour resistance. We're trading back up inside last week's candle to the 62% area of the candle. And I'm showing this on a lot of pairs today. The fact that price does trade back inside the weekly candle to the 62 or the 79% level, it holds and then turns around. This happens all the time. So if you can start to see it yourself, then hopefully you start to realize these are the areas that I want to look to trade back in line with the trend, with whatever strategy is your favorite strategy. So we're seeing some negativity here, negative 4-hour candle. Once we've touched that area, so we're going to move to the 1-hour chart. There's a very fractional 1-hour negative divergence here when we came into the area and started to turn around. So I'm expecting this is going to be moving down now from that area into the 15-minute chart. If you're watching that area today, had a very nice tight trend line that you can draw in there. Came just above your 4-hour resistance. It came to the 62% level, came down, gave it another tag, broke the trend line, MACD cross, and it's come down. Had a bit of a bounce here, but now it's moving below 77. So I'd be anticipating that this may be now putting in the high for the week. Time will tell, but it's fading at a good level. At the moment, it might come back up for a retest. So if you like the look of that level, obviously we can't go back in time to here to take your trade. But if it does come back up to there, I still be expecting that level to offer some resistance. So if you see another trend line break at that level, you just need to decide, is it a trade that you want to take? So, the weekly trend is now down. The day chart trend is clearly down. Fading at monthly resistance. And we're just rallying back inside last week's candle to a very good level. We could be moving down now for the day. Could be moving down now for the week. So last pair I want to review, and then if you have time, somebody can shout one out and we'll go and have a look at something. New Zealand dollar. So as I was saying, Aussie yen, Aussie dollar, New Zealand yen, New Zealand dollar, very highly correlated. And we'll go through that trend line break a little bit later, but let's have a look at the monthly chart. Like the Aussie dollar, this is putting in lower tops and bottoms on the monthly chart. We've had a MACD cross. Last time we got a MACD cross over here, we had a substantial move down. So I've got old monthly level support at 68.04 that we broke last week. This is last week's low, that line. I'll just take it off for the moment. So we're just managing to be below that level of broken monthly support. There's another level of monthly support here at 67.55 we're contending with. So that's where we bounced off last week. Now, if we can break 67.55 clearly, the next area of major support's way down here. There is a level here and here, but the one that sticks out like a thumb is down here. Are we starting a downtrend here for the long term, for the next 6 months or more, to move down to major support? So to the weekly chart, if we're going to be moving through this monthly top here, the next major area of support would be this weekly level, 65.12. If we bob back up, this level here, 68.04. Let's get that line in exactly at 68. Testing that, we've tested that today, or we've been fractions short of that level today, actually. I think we're 1 pip short of 68. But if we do move further up as well, there's weekly support broken there at 68.59 to look to trade down in line with the trend. So weekly trend is clearly down. Monthly trend is clearly down. Day chart trend is clearly down. And we're just trading within the 2 areas of monthly support, monthly resistance here. Being fractionally short of that level today. Lower tops and bottoms. Just put in the range of last week from that high to the lowest points. For our chart, what you're going to see is that we've only rallied just to 50%, but we're holding at, or fractionally 1 or 2 pips below, the 68.04 monthly resistance level, the old support level that got broke. And then on the 4 hour, there's this level of support that got broke there at 6,800. So that's why I actually had my line in at 6,800, because I was using that level. So we know where the monthly is. It's at 68.04, but let's now go to the 4 hour level at 6,800. Just a closer, more recent level of broken support becomes resistance. And then if you had that level drawn in, then you could see that when we got up there, we actually missed it by about half a pip or something like that. Put in a little double top on the 15-minute chart. Whether you drew your trend line aggressively or you drew it, this flat one here, we've had a break of a trend line from that area of resistance, and we've been moving down ever since. Okay. And at that level, there was some negative divergence on the 15-minute chart. So in that area, it was kind of telling you the story that you could maybe expect a reversal down. Now, it may go back up and re-challenge that. So that's a level I would still be watching. But of course, we may have missed the boat, and it may never get back up to that level for another challenge and failure. So if it doesn't challenge and fail, if it puts in a negative candle now, that's the high for the day, for example, it trades down all day and gives you a negative candle, then I will just be waiting for price to rally back up somewhat tomorrow. Does it rally back up, hold at the central pivot point, and then give you a trading opportunity to trade down in line with your day chart trend? That, what I'm just saying there, is the exact same thing that happened on the pound yen today. To the daily chart, we have a very negative candle. So if we put the same negative candle in today on the New Zealand dollar, see what happened today. In today's trading, after the negative candle, all we could do is get to the central pivot point, trend line break, hold, fail. I want to move down, and that's just starting to move down. So that's just starting to move down from that intra rally back up to the 79% level. So that kind of scenario there, we'll be looking for that to happen maybe tomorrow on the New Zealand dollar if we have a negative down all day today. All right. One of my work colleagues, Nathan, I don't know if he's on tonight. Don't know if he's got a pseudonym name there on tonight, but he was looking at the 68 level to trade down. I know he got short up here close to the 68 level. So he'll have a smile on his face. I'm sure he's still in that trade. We were discussing that level earlier in the day. All right, so if there's a pair that you'd like me to go through, I've got time for one more pair. So if there's anything, an instrument or a pair you'd like me to have a look at, just shout it out and I can have a look at it. While I'm waiting, I'm just going to click through, see what's going on. So Aussie yen's flying up there at 81, trend line break. Aussie dollars giving you a trend line break at the 79% retracement level. Euro yen showing its weakness from its earlier failure. Pound yen moving back down from the anticipated weakness. New Zealand yen's just continuing down from its trend line break up at its resistance area. So tomorrow on the New Zealand yen, we have a day down, a nice negative candle down tomorrow. This as well could come back up to fail at the central pivot, could come back up to fail at the 77 level, the figure. Those are levels I will be watching tomorrow. Could come back up to 77.11 through today and give you another opportunity to trade. All right, actually, one more pair we can look at is Canadian dollar. And this is the weekly chart. And I've drawn in an area here of resistance where the market's been moving above, rejecting, moving above, rejecting. So putting a lower top here to a lower bottom, coming up for a rally. Quite clearly, once more, it's rejected that area at 128.07, okay? So this is really showing you that we're holding at a weekly level of resistance, and as well, we've got a weekly downtrend. And we're having a negative candle now from the area. We actually got an interest rate decision early my morning on the Canadian dollar, so it'll be interesting to see what price action does post that. But I was looking at this earlier. I don't often trade this pair, but on the day chart here, quite clear, this is turned down trend now from the area, but it may rally. So I just, if this is a pair that you trade, I just wanted to point out to you that I'd be just looking to see, can this rally? So as this moves further down, puts in its low, I'll just drag my fib tool down to the low and then let it rally. But at the moment, if that is the low, well, I don't know if it is the low, but I noticed that the 79% retracement area is at the weekly resistance area. So I'd just be watching to see, does this have a nice deep rally back up? Does it once more come up at or close to 128.07? And then does it hold? Does it start change trend on a lower time frame? Because if it does, that would be a great area to initiate a trade against well-known strong resistance. But maybe we've already missed the boat up at that level, all right? So if you like the dollar Canadian, you can monitor that. All right, no questions coming in. All right, if you're on YouTube, sorry that I couldn't answer your questions, but if you did find our stream on YouTube and you're enjoying the analysis, then you're more than welcome to join us for any webinar. This is the webinar page at acy.com EN Education Webinars. There's a couple of webinars happening tomorrow. Clifford Bennett's doing one at 6 o'clock Sydney time. I'm doing one at 8 o'clock Sydney time on bringing it all together. How to identify high probability trading levels for the trading day. So that's the topic for me tomorrow, 8 o'clock Sydney time. And then into next week, we've got Tuesday, 8 p.m. Sydney time, trade setup called Swing Point Break. Next Wednesday, live market analysis, 8 o'clock Sydney time again. And then again, trade setups on Thursday, 8 o'clock Sydney time. Going through limit order and a support and resistance zone. So tomorrow, I'm going to show you how you can define your support and resistance zones. And I'll show you how you can do limit orders next week with the idea that you can obviously go to your charts and identify those levels. Then how do you trade using an order? All right, so if you're on YouTube, you're more than welcome to come to our site, register for a webinar, and join everybody else. And so you can chat and ask questions as well as we go along. All right, so thanks everybody. Hopefully you got some good levels there. You've got some good trend assessments, some good levels that you can utilize with your own trading strategy. Hopefully it puts some of the tools that I've been teaching you into perspective. So take that away with you. If you want to review that, you should find the replay on our ACY Securities Australia channel tomorrow. So the channel is here. It is ACY Securities Australia. And for example, last week's recording is here for the live webinar. There's the replay. So sometime tomorrow it'll be on there as a replay, so you can go and re-review it if you like and have a look at the levels. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks very much for attending this evening. Let's put up the webinar page back up if you're on YouTube. Thanks very much for attending. If you've been on YouTube, thanks for streaming with us. Stay safe. Have a great evening. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow if you've got the time. So I'm just going to end the stream there. Thanks very much, everybody.